Welcome to this week's One Image My Edit. So this week I'm going to be showing you how to add more colour and depth to your images using the photo filter tool in Photoshop. So you'll be able to go from having an image like this into something a little bit more dramatic like this. Okay, so let's make a start then. So the first thing we want to do is come up to your layers panel. Okay, once you've opened up your image, come down to the bottom here and click on there. And then we're going to come up and select photo filter. So the photo filter here, we have a big list of all different ones that we can use, all different colors. And we can also come up to the actual color here and click on it, and we can select all the different colors that we want. So we can really get, exactly what we want. So once you've selected a color that you want, I'm going to stick with the this one here, this filter here, so the warming filter 85. We can push the density up as well and make it a little bit more bright, a little bit more intense. Now there's a check underneath here which says preserve luminosity, and what that does is it stops the brightness of the image. So if we unselect that, you can see what this does. It adds the filter to everything, where we want to preserve the brightness of the image, so we don't want to adjust that, we just want to add the filter. Okay, so we can just move this around about there. I think that's pretty nice, but what we want to do is just have this in the highlights. We don't want it in the shadows, we don't want it around here, so we can address that as well. So if you come over to your layer here, which you've just created, and double click, this brings up the layer style. Okay, and what we can do is come down to here where it says underlying layer, and we can move this up, and you can see what that's doing. So down here in the shadows, it's taking that away. So if we hold Option or Alt and just drag that all the way up to the top there, drag that all the way down to the bottom there, what that's done is kept this filter that we've just made just in the highlights. Okay, so it's not in the shadows anymore. All right, so that's a really good way to kind of preserve detail and just add that tonal color into the highlights. And you can see there, as I click on the before and after, you can see, if you look in the clouds and the sky, you can see where it's actually happening. Yeah, so if we want to, we can increase the what's the word, we can increase how dramatic this is by duplicating this actual whole filter. So if you press Command or Control J, intensity, that's the word I was looking for. We can increase the intensity there. So that again just adds a little bit more intensity to the image and gives us a little bit more color, and it's really, really nice. So what we can do as well is actually get back some details in these highlights, because you can see here these highlights are starting to blow out a little bit. Okay, so all we need to do is come up to the blending modes up here and change this to multiply. Okay, so when you do that, you can see what that does is it just brings back more detail. It darkens the highlights and stops them from blowing out. And you can see there, I mean, that's actually got back quite a lot of detail in them highlighted areas. You can see areas there that were blown out. So you can see that we've managed just to bring them back and given a more intense feel. Okay, and let's just add another photo filter. So come up and select photo filter. So now I'm just going to do an overall filter to the whole of the image. Okay, so we're just kind of not just the highlights, we're doing everything now. That's quite nice, and we can then maybe just bring this opacity down so it will just be a hint all over the image. Okay, so that's kind of the highlights. Let's do another one now for the shadows, and let's add a blue. So again, come down to the bottom here, select photo filter, click on the color, and then let's select a blue. So let's select something around there. That's quite nice. We can change the saturation here, so we can bring the saturation down. We can also change the brightness here as well, so click on the B for brightness, or we can change the hue here, which is the actual color tone. Okay, so let's press OK to that. Now again, we want to have this just in the shadows, not in the highlights as well. So come up to the filter here on the layers, and what we want to do is just double click, and again that brings up our layer style. Now this time we're going to do it over this end here. So if we bring this up, okay, again hold the Option or Alt key, and we can split this. So do that to the blacks, that to the whites, and now that is just adding that filter to the shadow areas. So if we take that off, you'll see that just the shadow areas is very, very subtle, but it has just brought a little bit of blue into the clouds up here, as you can see, and the side of the building around here as well. It's just a very, very subtle adjustment, and it's what makes the difference with the shot looking a little bit more contrasting to it. So we can also, from here, we can we can add other adjustments as well. We could also take off the preserve luminosity, and what that enables us to do is to actually change the brightness of these shadows. So if we wanted to increase that or decrease that, we can. So this just basically allows you to make them shadows a little bit darker, and it's okay to do it on the shadows. I wouldn't do it on the highlights because obviously you're going to blow them out, but when it comes to the shadows, you can see there it actually does a pretty good job. So from here, what we can do as well is we can make a curve adjustment as well. So if we come up to the curves here, we can just click in the middle and just brighten it a little bit to about there. I think that looks quite nice. And because we've already got a layer mask here, okay, we can just press Control or Command I to invert that selection, and then use the brush tool, make sure it's on white, and make sure the hardness, so I've just got a soft brush there. I'm going to leave the opacity in flow, and then I'm just going to paint in around here. So this is just going to brighten up some of them areas. So I'm going to bring using the brackets keys just to bring that down a little bit, and just try and follow some of the natural contours of where the sun is hitting these buildings along here. Okay, so you can take your time with it, but you can see on the mask there what I've done. You can, anywhere that's white is now revealing that. You can, if you make a mistake, just change this to black and then start painting over, and it will fill that mask in for you. Okay. So what we can do from there as well is with all of these is if we now group these together. So click on the top adjustment, hold the Shift key down, click on the bottom, and then press Control Command G. That will group everything together. Okay, and now what we can do is we can change the opacity so it's a little bit more realistic. So 100% I think is probably a little bit too heavy, but I reckon it's around 90, something like that. That sits quite nice, and that means now that obviously it's just toned down everything a little bit, so it looks a little bit more natural. So if you look, this is the before, okay, which is kind of your standard some sunset shot, and then just by messing around with them photo filters, you can see there you get a little bit more of a dramatic look. And again, you can really play around with this and change all these colors however you want. Sorry, wrong button. Click on that one there, so you can come back and change these colors whenever you like. So you can come up to here, and you can make them a little bit warmer, and you don't need to do anything because you've already done all the all the settings that we've just done. So you can come back here and just play around with these colors and intensities if you want to get a real nice final look. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I look forward to seeing your images and how you use this technique. It's really simple and really easy, but the main aspect is just splitting them filters into details in the highlights and the shadows. It's a really nice little trick. So just by right clicking on there, and you can see where you've done it with these squares here, and it's just splitting them, and it just means that you keep details in either the shadows or the highlights, and that's what makes the difference with an image looking a little bit more realistic and a little bit more punch to it. And again, you can carry on doing other things as well. So might just do a general curves adjustment on here, just to kind of add a little bit more contrast to the shot. And you can, obviously then bring that into Lightroom as well if you wanted to. So once you're finished, just go to layer and then just go to flatten image, or you can obviously keep that as it was there, keep all of these adjustments that you've made, and just go to file, save as, and then you can either save it as a Photoshop format or a TIFF, and then just save it to wherever you want to. And then what will happen is it will say to you it's going to increase the file size with the layers, but that's what you want, because if you then go and open up that image, what will happen is that you will then have all of these filters and adjustments that you've made. Okay, so it's still saving. It's quite a big file because of all the stuff we've added, but what that does, it just preserves all of the stuff that you've done previously. So if you want to come back to it, you can, and you can make adjustments again later on. Okay, so I'll just quickly demonstrate that now. So we just go to File, Open, and then click on this here. It's actually still saving to my hard drive, but there you go. You can see there is all of the layers. Okay, so that's a really good tip as well, because it means you can come back at a later date and tweak it. I hope you've enjoyed that. I look forward to seeing your images. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.